Hi, welcome to the Empowered Woman Podcast. This is a place for you to learn from inspiring women how to empower yourself through self-love. I'm so glad that you're here. My name is Marta Spurk, and I'm your host, triplet mom, woman empowerment coach, and all things motivation extraordinaire. On this bonus episode recorded live inside my Facebook group, the Empowered Woman Community, I talk about how to get empowered when you're feeling helpless. Whether you've been personally affected by the current world events or not, we've all gone through situations of helplessness. So I want to share some stories and strategies to empower you today. Let's dive in. So, this is officially 2 weeks in the quarantine with me and the kids not going to school today. And all throughout these last 2 weeks, I have been noticing people, especially moms, talking about how they're having a hard time with the kids being at home. And then some other people who may have just one child or who may not be moms, kind of trying to make it a point to say, nothing has changed for me, everything is the same, not really struggling. And it kind of rubbed me the wrong way because who is not struggling right now? Even if you're, keeping your spirits up, which I believe, I'm staying positive, especially because that's my attitude and that's what I do for a job, for a living as a coach. But that doesn't mean that you're not affected by the circumstances. And this is one of the things that I always say, that when we're pretending like everything is okay, that's actually even more dangerous than you dwelling in the crap. Or maybe it's just, it's just as bad. We have to be able to recognize situations and things that are not good for us so that we can make a change. You can't fix what you don't know it's broken, right? And that's the number one point I want to make today is how important self-awareness and really getting vulnerable and honest with yourself is. And so that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I know that whenever you feel offended, it's because you have that insecurity. If somebody comes up to you and tells you, hey, you're so strange, you're blue, you're going to be like, I'm not blue, you're weird. Now, if they come up to you and they say, oh, you're so lazy, oh, you're overweight, if you're insecure in those two areas, you're going to start questioning yourself and start thinking, oh my gosh, I really am. Now I feel offended. Do you see what I mean? You only feel offended when you're already insecure in that area, because if you're not, then it doesn't touch you. It doesn't hit you. It doesn't get to you. And so I feel like I got a little bit offended with these people. And it wasn't just people posting randomly online. It was actually people responding to some of my posts saying, it's tough having the kids day in, day out and not being able to get out. And people purposefully messaging me and telling me, I'm doing fine. I'm doing okay, which that's great. And I would rather hear that you're doing okay, but just want to make sure people are not trying to dress it up just to make the other ones feel bad. But that's up to everyone. Everyone is entitled to their own reactions, right, to things. But this made me think about how important it is for us to become aware of our situation, right? So when there's something going wrong, it does you no good to say, I'm fine, if you're not really fine. It's important for you to acknowledge crappy things. And this is what I wanted to kind of bring to you today, is that I talked to several women online this last week. And I asked, what is sucky about right now? I know that the things you focus on grow. So we're not supposed to be focusing on the negative. But not being able to talk about the negative is even more frustrating, because it's like you're pretending it's not there, but it is. In order for you to get out of the situation that you're in right now, you have to be able to talk about it, to process it, to ask yourself questions so that you can figure out a way out. You know what I mean? So I shared that one of the things that I'm bummed about, besides, having less time for myself because my kids are at home, is that I'm going to have to give up my acrylic nails. I usually would just completely rip them out after like one time and not even do a refill. Or maybe I've done like 2 refills. And I've had these nails since like mid-November. I was like, I'm going to stick with it because it's actually cheaper if I don't take them out. And now I can't stick with them. I'm going to have to give them up. And another thing that is pretty much a bummer is that I was going to have my citizenship interview to become a U.S. citizen. next week, and it was postponed because everything is closed. So that's a bummer. And of course, if you talk about these things, people are going to be like, oh my gosh, people are dying all over the world. Why are you even saying these things? Because you have a right to be bummed about things. You have a right to talk about these things. And you don't have to do it publicly on a podcast or on social media, but talk to a friend, tell somebody that you're bummed, and then you can start snapping out of it. But it's okay to acknowledge that it's not fun for you. So I wanted to read a couple other comments and messages that I've got from women talking about the things that suck right now. Let's focus on what sucks so that we can acknowledge it and then move on. So one mom, Crystal, said, it's been really hard trying to work at similar level with no childcare. I was struggling before and now really stressed and trying to do my best to serve well with a baby who needs a lot. I love my son, but would love more help. Raise your hand if you are feeling that right now, if you have small kids. That's a concern. Michelle said, my weight is my biggest thing at the moment. I have no self-motivation. And that's one thing that is hard. I have been even noticing that with myself, with you not being able to, get out of the house and there's not much you can do. I found myself like snacking and binge eating more. And this is hard. And why not talk about it? Why not, say that you're struggling with it and maybe have somebody help you? So acknowledging that is super important. And we'll talk about what to do afterwards. But I just want to share some other stories. Mitchie said, dropping to zero income overnight, and I'm scared of buying food. It's pretty crazy out there in the grocery stores. I have not ventured out. My husband has been the one going out, and he always comes back with some kind of crazy story of what people did. So yeah, it's tough. Jenna said, as a homeschooling mom of 7, I had been buried in my role as a mother to the point of soul suffocation for 28 years. I put the children in school this year and saw myself for the first time in my entire adult life. Now the children are back 24/7 and I feel myself suffocating in role again. I know this too shall pass, but I'm bummed. See, it's okay to admit that. And I'm totally with Janice on this one because I had a whole year of my kids going to school after being a full-time stay-at-home triplet mom for 3 years. And now they're back. And it's almost like, oh my gosh, I thought we were over this, And I know they will eventually, have summer and whatever, because now they're just going to childcare because I have, a flexible work schedule with my interpreting jobs and everything. So they do go to childcare, but it's still hard. It's still hard adjusting to something that you thought you were over and done with. Genesis said, I'm stressing about work. I currently have no clients, so I'm just writing books for now, but it's quite anxiety inducing. Who's not feeling anxiety? And we talked about this last week that pretty much like 70, almost 80% of Americans say that they have some type of anxiety, an undiagnosed type of anxiety. And with everything that's going on, oh my gosh, I feel like the levels of anxiety are probably at 100%. So it's okay to acknowledge that you're feeling anxious and that things are not that great right now with all of this. And so I wanted to share these stories to talk about how we're all struggling, okay? It's okay. And some people may not be struggling as much, but I encourage them to dig deep and not to just pretend that they're doing okay. And if you're completely fine and you're completely okay, then that's great. I'm happy for you, but I'm probably this podcast episode and this live broadcast is not for you. So self-awareness is super important, and not for you to dwell in that. And that's really the number one step that I believe takes us into feeling empowered. Because usually when you think into the future, I want to be this person X that has this amount of money, that is doing this, that is living there. You're not looking at your current situation. It's super important for you to realize where you're at so that you know what point A is before you start thinking about point B, because most of our lives, we're constantly thinking about point B. Are you not spending a lot of your time right now thinking, what am I going to do once this is over? What am I going to do once this is over? When at the same time, it's like, we don't know exactly when it's going to be over. So if you waste every single day in anxiety thinking about what you're going to do when this is over, you're not going to have that great of a time in your quarantine, which is hard. Of course, you have to plan for when this is over. But you see what I mean? It's finding that balance between not dreading so much and hating so much your current reality and finding gratitude in your current reality, and then thinking about what you want to do. It does you no good to just think about what you're going to do in the future. You have to start acknowledging what's going on right now. So That's the first thing. And really embracing the lows, because it's almost like we live our lives always expecting that high, right? Of that one moment when I'm going to feel so happy. But if you think about it, most times of our lives, the majority of our lives, I guess I should say, are either uneventful or lows. The highs are not, the super highs of going on a trip, your birthday. You don't celebrate your birthday every day. There's a reason for that, right? You're not constantly in just super high mode, which means you have to learn to be okay in the lows and in the uneventful days, which are we not learning how to deal with that at this time with everything that's going on? There's not really a whole lot of highs right now, but we can still learn to find joy and to embrace the situation that is happening. And this is what I have been feeling with being at home with my kids, is that I find myself almost kind of bipolar. And I don't want to use that term because I know it's a diagnosis and I don't want to disrespect anyone or underestimate the condition. But at some points in the day, and I've used to experience this before when the kids were at home with me, and even with them being in school. You know what I'm talking about. Sometimes during the day, you're like, oh my gosh, I got this. Everything is fine. And then something happens, or sometimes nothing at all happens, and you find yourself kind of on a low. And you're like, this sucks. I don't want this anymore. When is this going to end? We go through this several times a day. And now it seems like it's more because of the situation. You can't get out and there's, you're limited in the things that you can do. But in reality, it really is not. That's just the normal ebb and flow of life. At some points of the day, you're super awesome. And some other points of the day, you're not that great. But here's the thing. First, understanding that you're going to have lows in your life. Just accept that, okay? And second, asking yourself and investigating, why am I feeling crappy right now? Where is this coming from? Because if you don't ask and you just say, I'm going to be okay now, it's likely that this will come back sooner, or that this will last for longer. That's why the self-awareness is so important, is asking yourself, where is this coming from? And not just saying, I'm okay. You see what I mean? Does this make sense? Let me know. You have to be able to investigate and to lean into those feelings so that they will go away. You have to embrace the feelings. And there's lots of talk about this, with meditation of, embracing the anger, embracing the fear, which seems so crazy. You should be, shutting all of this out. But the thing is that it's all inside of you. So it's not that easy to shut it all out. You really have to investigate and ask yourself questions. So take advantage of the hard times to learn more about yourself. That's what they're there for. Otherwise, you would never have hard times. If you didn't have anything to learn and nothing to overcome, you would never have hard times, right? Every time you hit an obstacle, it's because you haven't mastered that area, because your values and your beliefs are being challenged. So now it's time for you to ask yourself those hard questions so that you can overcome this, and just wait, because the other one's probably right around the corner, and that's fine. That's okay. Yes, Genesis and Michelle say it makes perfect sense. Awesome. Thank you for the feedback, ladies. So let's move on to the second step of the self-empowerment. So this is truly what I believe in. Before you start thinking of what you want things to look like, look at what they are like right now, okay? So you have to look at what they are like right now, and also think about your past for a second. If it's really, really hard right now, well, think about other hard things that you have overcome. And so this is something else that I want to share with you that I have asked, and that ladies have given me a list of all the amazing things that they have overcome. So instantly when you start thinking about the things you've overcome, you start getting more empowered. That's the power of your brain. And I have recently learned that your brain doesn't actually know the difference between a big accomplishment or, a big victory or overcoming, and a small one, because it's the same feeling. So when you say, oh my gosh, I folded my laundry yesterday, and you feel that satisfaction, your brain actually classifies or categorizes that as the same thing as I survived cancer, which is crazy to think about because they're not very alike. But it's just the idea of empowering yourself. That feeling is the same feeling. So why not remind yourself all of the time of the things that you've already overcome to help you get out of the low, right? After you understand why the low is there, remind yourself, pick yourself back up instead of waiting for somebody to validate you or to pick you up from the low. So let's see, Megan said, and she's a triplet mom, she said, I think we can both agree on what the biggest hurdles we both have overcome was a triplet pregnancy. In my book, we are considered rock stars. And yeah, I mean, I can count on that and say, oh my gosh, I made 3 humans at the same time. And I was actually watching this one Netflix special with Joe Rogan last night with my husband. And he goes on this long, joke, rant, whatever, talking about how women are amazing because they're the only people in the world that make people. And it was super awesome. So if you need something to watch, go watch Joe Rogan. He's pretty out there. If you're easily offended, maybe it's not for you. But I just laughed my butt off. It was really, really funny. And instantly, as women, come on. We don't want to just be called moms because we're more than that, but talk about empowerment when you think of what our bodies can do, right? Let's see. Mandy put a quote. She said, on particularly rough days, I like to remind myself that my track record for getting through bad days so far is 100%, and that's pretty good. It's true. You're still here. You're still here, which means you've overcome several different things and several hard things, and this is just another one. You can do it too. Sherry shared a long story. She said, I was abandoned with 8 children, including at the time 1-year-old triplets by my husband, then going through divorce, having him cheat on me, steal my inheritance from my dad. Like, talk about all the crazy things that, you have gone through. And maybe it's not as crazy as this, but like I said, everyone has overcome something hard. And how to measure what's harder than the other, you can't do that. Even with me saying, it's harder for me having triplets than my sister having only one child, but there's just different types of difficulties, and I am not her. So it's just different. Hi, Erin. Thank you for joining me. Let's see. Sarah said, due to budget cuts at my school district, my department had cut 16 people, which was about 60% of the team. My small team of 4 was cut to just me, had to learn how to support over 5,000 teachers on my own, as well as write curriculum, vets resources, support students, etc. We were still dealing with the PTSD from that even 3 years ago. So lots of women talking about different hurdles that they've overcome in their personal life, with marriage, with having kids, with work. Rachel says, my entire childhood, this is a cakewalk. Talking about the quarantine. When you think about, having a troubled childhood, this is a cakewalk. See what I mean? If you're struggling right now with all that's going on, start thinking about the things that you've already overcome. And that will put you in a better mood instantly. Billy said, desert storm. If you've been in a desert storm and you're alive, you can do anything. Desiree said, my parents' tragic motorcycle accident 8 years ago. It was my catalyst in my life, and my own inner healing is why I started my business in 2016 to help other women find the same for themselves. Beautiful. Michelle says, sexual assault and mentally manipulated. It's made me stronger. It made me who I am today. I overcame all the heartache and pain. It's made me personally a better person. Let's see. Genesis contributed to this one too. She said, my son being born with a birth defect that required multiple surgeries. It was the hardest time of my life. He's now a relatively healthy 14-year-old. Oh my gosh, I can totally relate to that with not only triplets, but with having a son with a lung condition. It was so scary in the first 3 months or in the first 5 months. From the point when we noticed symptoms until he was actually diagnosed, he was in and out of the hospital. He was intubated at one time. It was just so terrifying. And we're here and we're fine. So something to remember. Nicole said, my childhood is so horrible. I could and have thought about writing a book. But as an adult, we have managed to go through pregnancy, loss, and infertility. Then we're blessed with a beautiful baby followed by more loss. Then twins, born too soon, and we are still dealing with the lung issues. They were both diagnosed with severe autism last year. If we can keep the twins from catching this, it'll be another thing we have gone through. Isolation is not new to us. We got this. We have no choice. Yes. And Erin commented, some of the things I've been through, and I'll talk about Erin in a little bit. I have some exciting news to talk about. And Michelle says, from January 2018 to August 2019, I had 3 surgeries and a kidney stone. Come on. We've all overcome so many things, and I'll read just a couple more. Crystal said, I grew up with an addict parents and I survived it all. Now I have a beautiful, healthy family and a successful business. Also, sad parent is almost 10 years clean and the most beautiful soul and best friend. So several hard stories can turn into beautiful stories, right? And even if that person didn't turn into a beautiful thing, you can still make your own story turn into something positive. And finally, Becky said, I broke free from a cheating, abusive husband of 10 years. So much happier now and will be even happier once this battle of divorce is over. Come on, ladies. We got this. So there you go. This is my second step. If you are needing some empowerment, don't expect on anyone to empower you and to encourage you. Definitely don't expect necessarily social media or the news to encourage you right now. Encourage yourself. Just remind yourself of all the amazing things that you've already done that are amazing. And then now, after you acknowledge where you are and think about the things you've already overcome in your life, then you can look into the future. You see how the sequence is it makes a lot more sense, and it's a lot better when you think about the past and the present and then the future instead of just focusing on the future, because then the present sucks and the past sucks and your entire life is a piece of crap. Is that how you want to live your life? No. So pick yourself up, remind yourself of all the amazing things you've overcome, and having all of this in mind, actually, and talking to all of these women, and having my workshops canceled, because that was brutal. So I had to cancel my March one, which was supposed to be next week on the 31st. And then I just got an email a couple days ago from the venue saying that they're going to have to cancel the April one as well, because, everything is shutdown mode. So they can't have any events even in April, which made me really sad. But then I thought I still can do things to help empower women. And I'm still online. I'm still posting. I'm making these videos and these episodes. But I did want to come up with something else so that to really divert our attention from all the negativity and the anxiety and the worry. So one thing that I decided to do with all of that. Oh, and one last thing is that not only talking to these women, but even hearing on the news that because of the isolation, there is, the prediction or the estimation that there will be higher increasing rates of depression and even of suicide because of what we're facing. And I'm not surprised, but it's still awful. And as a coach, as a person that works in the mental and emotional health space, I feel like it is my duty and my responsibility to do something about it. So the number one thing that I decided to do was to partner up with Erin, and she's here watching us, Erin Bear. She has written an amazing book, and that's something that I want to be talking more about as well, is encouraging women to write about their stories. She wrote an amazing book, and I love the name of a book in her business that is called From Beaten to Badass. So she shares her story about domestic violence and abuse and other things that she has overcome, the lessons that she has learned. And the name of the book is From Beaten to Badass. And we decided to do a book club. So we're going to be doing a virtual book club, which everyone is at home. You probably have more time in your hands. And even if you don't, make some time to focus on something positive. So we're going to be reading her book, and you can either get the paperback version or the Kindle version. We're going to start on Monday, April 1st. We're going to be doing it inside a Facebook group, but if for some reason you don't have Facebook, you could still hop on the 2 Zoom calls that we're going to be doing to just discuss. And we're going to have questions and things. And what I want to do with this too is encourage women to share their stories. So we're going to be reading Erin's story and the lessons. We're going to be commenting. We're going to be able to actually ask the author questions. How awesome is that, to be in a book club where you can ask the author questions, because she's going to be right there. But I also want to encourage you to think about your story and the lessons that you have learned and the things that you have overcome. So this is perfect for the time that we're living in, and I highly encourage you to join us. I will put all of the links afterwards for you to check out in the book and download, and also join our group. But the group on Facebook is called Beaten to Badass Book Club. And the next thing that I thought about doing, since I had to cancel my workshops, is doing a free and virtual workshops. So the workshops that I had been doing, they did have a fee. But since we're not meeting anywhere, I'm not providing snacks and coffee or anything like that. It only makes sense for me to do it free, because I want more people to be able to participate, and I want us to focus on positive things. And so I will be talking about how to become an aware and confident woman. So the content is very similar from everything that I talk about, but I'll be giving specific tips and exercises. So everything that I do with my workshops is very interactive. So I talk about some concepts, I share my story, and then I ask you questions for you to reflect and share back with me. So it's going to be interactive, and I'm so excited about that. That is going to happen live on April 3rd. So next Friday, a week from now, instead of doing this live broadcast on Facebook and then recording the podcast episode, I will be doing this workshop via Zoom. So you can register. I will put the link for you as well for this, but it's just marchesburg.com/virtual workshop. And it's free. You'll get all the notifications and the Zoom link to join. And it's just going to be an amazing opportunity, again, for you to get together with amazing women and talk about how you're feeling. Because if you missed the beginning of this, or you weren't paying attention, it's super important for you to become aware of how you're feeling and not just stuff your emotions up. And I encourage you to listen to one of my previous solo episodes on the podcast where I talk about an imagery that I have loved using lately in different podcast interviews that I have been doing, but I'm going to bring it up again because it's amazing. You know how you were a kid, or maybe as an adult, I have felt this as an adult too. As has happened to me as an adult too. You're in the dark and then you're trying to sleep and then you look over and you feel like you see something weird and you're kind of scared. What if it's a person? What if it's a thing? What if it's an animal? And then you kind of just, tell yourself to shut up, tell your mind to shut up, and you turn the other way and you pretend like it's not there. You try to go to sleep and it doesn't work. And yeah, you're basically still scared because you don't know if it was your brain playing tricks on you, which your brain plays tricks on you all the time. Instead, you could just get up, turn the light on, and see that it was a pile of laundry, something that was folded weird, a blanket, whatever. And how many times in our lives we just pretend that things are not there because it is more comfortable to pretend that they're not there, except you're still living with that fear and with that anxiety. Whereas turning the light on is really not that hard. It's just a little scary on your way there. But once you turn the light on, you become aware. Now you can actually do something about it. Okay? So that's what I'm inviting you to do, is become aware of your feelings at this moment of craziness that we're living in. But not just right now. This is just the perfect opportunity because you don't have you're not as busy probably. And again, I always say that with a grain of salt because I am probably busier than I've ever been because my kids are at home with me. But still, it's not as busy maybe mentally with, deadlines and things that you have to do if you're not working. So take this time to dive in. And I saw a quote the other day and I've posted it online because I love it. It says, if you can't go outside, go inside. So here's my invitation for you to go inside. And I'm giving you 2 opportunities. One is the book club. And the other one is the free virtual workshop. So I'll put all the links for that. And I highly, highly encourage you to participate, to help you at this moment. And even if you're okay right now, to learn some tools for future use, for future reference when you do struggle with something else, okay? So let me know if you're joining. I'm super excited for it all. And Michelle says, yeah, I have to check. I have a bull's head on my wall. That used to freak me out until I got used to it being there. There you go. See, even as adults, we go through these little things because, our brains, they're there to protect us. That's the big thing. And that's what you have to always remind yourself, that whenever you're going through something hard and you start freaking out, oh, it's a buffalo head. Okay. And you start freaking out, you have to ask yourself, why am I freaking out? Is this even legit? Because your brain may be doing it just out of preservation of just be careful. Kind of like your mom. Your mom, when you used to go to school and she would tell you the forecast. Did anybody else's mom do that? Because my mom did this every day. She knew exactly what the weather was supposed to be like all day long. And she would tell me what to wear, put a sweater on, you better, layer up. And then it turned out not to be that big of a deal, but it was just out of precaution. That's how your brain operates. It's kind of like your inner mom in there trying to help you. But in some ways, it can be too much and it can stress you out. So that's why you have to develop the habit of a more intentional inner monologue with yourself so that you know when you're helping yourself and when you're actually harming yourself with your thoughts. So it's important to understand that you are not your thoughts and separate the things. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I so hope that this encouraged you as always. And don't forget to check out the links in the show notes. I would love for you to participate in the book club with the book From Beaten to Badass by my friend Erin Bear, and also participating in my free virtual workshop. You don't have to have social media to watch it. Just check out the link in the show notes to register and watch. Until next time, bye.